Hello, everyone. My name is Ron from International Trade Council. Welcome to the session two of this startup summit. What The discussion for this session is bringing your startup to life, and we have Morten Skurdal, CEO of Indevelopment ES, and he'll be able to discuss this for you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Hi everyone, thank you for joining. My name is Morten Skurdal and I'm the creator of the mobile app My Items. I was asked to hold an educational presentation here at the Startup Summit today, and I made this presentation for this meeting. I've decided to talk about how to bring your startup to life. This is a topic in which I have accumulated a lot of experience throughout my career, as I have started some companies of my own and I have been working close with other successful entrepreneurs. So let's go to it. Okay. In this presentation, the process is divided into 4 steps. First, you get an idea that you wish to develop to be a commercial product. The initial idea starts like a small piece of the product, and it evolves and grows larger and larger in your mind. When you have gotten this far, you should start to write down the ideas so you can start the process of documenting what you will make. The next step will be to do research about the product. Often an idea looks great on paper, but it's important that the idea is tested thoroughly to see that this is a product the market will buy. Does it already exist in the market, or is it a brand new product that are to be launched? What problem does the product solve for the customer? When the product is documented and the research is done, it's time to start up the company. When starting up the business, 6 actions need to be performed for the business to be established. And I will address these actions later in this presentation. And the fourth step would be to enter a development phase. And this is when you turn your initial idea to a product. In this phase, it is important to stay on the plan, and I will mention some things to keep in mind during this phase of the business. It's important to start with getting a complete overview of your idea. What starts as a small idea can often evolve to be a large product. From my own experience, when I start to think of a new system, it grows and it gets bigger and it becomes difficult to keep track of all your own ideas. My Items is a complex system, and when I created this in my mind, it was evolving from the initial thought to be a complete system. To get it onto the drawing board, I went down to the basement and found a large roll of cardboard paper. In a few hours, I had drawn an entire system with database tables, workflows, and design ideas on a big sheet of cardboard. From there, I made a design document. I structured all the data from the initial drawing and documented all the features of the app. I sent the design document to the development team and they could start to work on the estimate. In this case, this methodology was very helpful, but this will of course vary from product to product. The important thing is to make a good documentation and make it as complete as possible. Get every element and every detail that is in the plan. This will help to get the estimates for the development more accurate, and then you will have a better possibility to make a realistic budget. The design document will also help to determine if the project is viable or not. The design document is an important piece for the startup company. Research. Do a research to validate your idea. It's important that the idea is researched thoroughly before establishing a startup. What seemed to be a great idea won't be a successful product if the market doesn't want it. Before doing a lot of work, these things needs to be checked out. Do some research around the product. Does it exist already, or is it a new product? If it's a product that already exists, you need to look into the competition. Who are your opponents? How are they financially holding up? And what can you do different than them that makes you succeed in the market? Will it be possible to sell the product with a profit as long as the prices is the same or below the market price? Uh, it's a lot of important questions that needs to be answered, and you can do this in the research. If the product is suitable for it, you can do a market poll toward the group you will target as customer. See how they respond, if they like what is presented, if the product solves a problem for them. And make sure in the research that the product you're planning to make doesn't infringe on other patented products. It's very unpleasant to come in a legal conflict due to a patent infringement. If the product is new to the market, it would be wise to check if it's a kind of product where you should protect the intellectual property with a patent application. If it's a new type of product, make sure that everyone involved in the project will sign a non-disclosure agreement. Actions from ID to a startup. In this presentation, we will present 6 actions to move the company from an ID to be a startup company. Areas that need to be a part of the startup are the following: team up with other founders, write a business plan, collect funding for the project, apply for public benefit programs, create a company profile, and consult with business advisors. Each topic will be addressed on the next slide. Team up with other founders. When you're building a startup company, it's important to have the knowledge which is needed. If there are areas where the founder has no experience, it might be negative towards the external investors, and it might slow down the process. In some cases, it might be a good idea to find a partner to work with as a co-founder. The tasks that is required for building the company can be divided between the founders, and they can, as a team, make a great startup company. By contacting different incubator programs, they might be helpful and give guidance on the best way to move forward with the startup. Make a business plan. It's important to make a business plan for the company. When you're working through a template for a business plan, you need to go through most of the areas that needs to be considered when you are building a business. It will help to work through all the overall areas such as strategies and goals. You define your market and you see what position the product is expected to take in the market. In this process, you can make an investment budget and a prognosis for an expected revenue. It's in most cases necessary to have a complete business plan when addressing the finance institutions, the investors, and the public benefit programs. When building the business plan, it's important that the budgets are as accurate as possible. Estimates for development, purchase costs, operating costs, and costs for staff needs to be considered and calculated. This will show the need for capital in the period before the business starts to generate revenue and run with a profit. The business plan should include prognosis to show the investors when it's expected to be profitable and how much return they can expect on their investment. Funding. When the business plan is done, the estimated need for capital should be ready. The founder should make an assessment and see how much capital that needs to be raised from external investors and how much the founders can raise on their own. The founders need to agree with the investors on price of the shares, number of shares, and what total percentage the investors will have after the capital emission. The search for investors can be done in different incubator environments, and this is typically angel investors that want to invest early in a company with a large potential for growth. Public benefit programs. Many countries have different programs for funding innovation projects, and they can also have special tax benefit programs for projects that work with innovation. While working on the business plan, the founders should check out which possibilities that are available in their countries. Many countries have large budgets to support new inventions and technology that creates workplaces. These are public offices, and they are often service-minded and helpful with the applicants. The next point is company profile. The next step is to create a company profile. First, the company and the product should get a name. When a name is suggested, it's important to check trademark registers and make sure that there is no brand infringement with the name that is chosen. Second, the company is going to need a website. All companies have a website, so it will be necessary to have a domain that corresponds with the company name. Check with the domain registers and buy the domain that belongs to the company. In some cases, you can have chosen the perfect name for the company and the domain is occupied, but not in use. In these cases, it's possible to make an offer for the domain, and maybe the owner is willing to sell it for a reasonable price. When the company has gotten a name that it deserves and a domain to go along with it, it's time to design a logo and come up with an aesthetic that fits well for the business. It's important to show the same impression in all the communication from the company. Talk to business advisors. When you establish a new company, there are things that need to be planned from the start. Should it be a limited company? Should the company be owned by a holding company? How is the suggested shareholder agreement? What insurance should be established? There are a lot of things around the business that needs attention, and that is why it could be a good idea to contact an accounting agency or an auditor and talk to a business advisor as a part of the startup procedure. The business advisor will probably help with the necessary documents for registration of the company. The business advisor will also give guidance on rules of accounting and rules of tax-deductible cost and travel regulations, and they can advise on which ERP system to choose. It will save a lot of future work if this is done right from the start. When these tasks are completed, the startup company is established and ready to develop the initial ID and convert it to a profitable product. After the startup, the company sort of goes into a development phase. That's when they're going to make the product that was originated from the ID. The business plan needs to be followed, and this requires a lot of work. My advice to a startup company would be to make sure that there is enough available time to work on the project. Be prepared that everything in this process often takes more time than anticipated. So this is a time-consuming work. Cost. Keep a tight cost control of the costs. Before the company gets profitable, the only available funds are the capital. Check prices with different vendors and think twice before you buy a gadget that you just might need. And try to negotiate with the vendors to get as long credit line as possible. Administration. If the company needs more capital, it will be performed a due diligence of the company, which includes a control of accounts, documents, administrative routines, and more. I have seen startup companies that jump to the task of building the company without prioritizing the administrative part. and this ends up costing a lot of time and money. I would advise to make sure that these tasks are done on a regular basis. Keep the accounts booked regularly, keep all documents in one place, pay all the bills on time, and make sure that you have a great relationship with the bank and the company auditor. Follow the plan. Attempt to follow the initial development plan. If it's necessary to deviate from the plan and this delays the project, then make sure to adjust the prognosis as well to make sure that the finances will be sufficient. Well, these are some of the most important advices for a startup that has been presented here today. Make sure that the product can be sold in the market, connect with the right resources so the company have the knowledge that is needed to build a company, be as accurate as possible when making the budget so there won't be any surprises that makes the project short of money. Set aside enough time to the project so you can be able to follow the plan. Enjoy the work. It's rewarding to see that you have developed an idea to be a commercial product. So that was all from me. Thanks for your attention. If you have any questions, we can have them now.
All right, thank you for that, Mortel, for the very interesting presentation. If you guys have a question about the presentation, just go to the session tab on the right side of the screen, and there is a Q&A tab. You can type in your question there, and we can entertain questions starting now. Hi, you're welcome, Abhishek.
Yes.
As a startup, when do we need auditors?
Well, I guess that's different rules between the different countries. Um, I'm from Norway, and here in Norway we have a classification of small companies. Then we don't need an auditor. I know it's the same in Ireland. So, but this is regulated by local rules. So this is you need to check up in your country. So
Thank you. Any other questions? By the way, if you would like to reach him directly, the information is here, his email address and contact details. You can also visit his booth on this event. Please, how do I get funding for my company and yours? And can maybe he's asking to have a copy of your slides.
yeah, sure. Did you store this? Will you store these slides in the presentation somewhere, or?
Yes, it's actually recorded as mentioned earlier. So we will going to send you the link on how to access this presentation.
Okay, so and it's recorded, but if you want the slides,
You
the
can
PowerPoint,
you can send us the slides directly, and we can definitely send them the copy.
yeah, that's good.
And next question is, do we need an accountant as a startup on development stage?
Uh, if it's not required by law, at least not here in Norway, to have an external accountant, you can do much of that work yourself, but I would advise to talk to one at least and get information of the taxation rules and which system that you should use and how to book the costs in the account. So because I've seen many startups that hasn't done that right from the beginning. So yeah.
Any other questions?
You're welcome.
All right, so let's just wait for a few minutes if there are additional questions.
Okay.
All right, I think that will be all. We have already answered all your questions. You're welcome, sir. So if you have any other concerns, you can reach him directly. There is a direct message option on this app. You can definitely message him directly on, or you can visit his booth and talk to him if you have any other questions. So, do you have any final words, Mortal, before we end the session?
I would say welcome to everybody to join me in my booth, and maybe I'll talk to you more there. So,
All right.
and I will thank you everyone for listening.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you so much for that very interesting presentation. So we will have a next pitching session after this, and see you there. Thank you, Mortel. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.